Oh, it is good news today, my friends. We are talking about very, very good news. We're talking about the early sales of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Obviously, the question of how much this game is going to sell, it's a burning question. It's been on my mind pretty much constantly. It haunts me throughout the day, and I know that we're not going to get really good official numbers probably until the next quarterly financial report, and that stinks because we just had a financial report, so we're probably going to have to wait like 3 months or something before we get like another really good, meaty, an actual report of like how much has this game sold. You know, most sales of these kinds of games happen within the first like month or so. The launch numbers are really, really extra important. Well, even if we can't get the complete report quite yet, at the very least we have some early indications. For whatever reason, we usually get little bits of information first from UK and Japan. I don't know why. It's like they report those numbers a little bit earlier. And in the UK, it's usually not necessarily solid numbers. It's more about rankings. I don't really know why these things are the way that they are. I guess I should look into it sometime. But I know that like UK and Japan numbers are usually pretty early. And right now, the first bit of information we got a couple days ago came courtesy of GamesIndustry.biz's Christopher Dring, who we have quoted on this channel before. He says, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is #1 in the UK boxed charts. And again, see, we don't get numbers. For whatever reason out of the UK, it's always just like the ranking of the boxed charts, whatever. #1 in the boxed charts. It had a bigger launch than the Super Mario RPG remaster, with opening week sales basically identical to Origami King. So that's good. That's really, really, really good. A bigger launch than Super Mario RPG. Need I remind you, Super Mario RPG has been selling pretty well. It's on track to be one of the best-selling Mario RPGs ever. Thousand-Year Door had a bigger launch than that, and then basically identical to Origami King, which again sold pretty darn well for a Mario RPG. The whole series doesn't have a long history of selling particularly well, but this is a very great start. This is just one market, and it is just boxed sales. It does not count digital or all of the other markets. This is just one piece of the picture. So this all by itself is good, but it's not everything. But we have another one. What did I say? It's the early stuff is usually UK and Japan. So let's look at Japan right now. We have solid numbers here. Apparently during its debut, Thousand-Year Door sold 115,000 physical units in Japan. And if you want to compare that to previous games, Super Paper Mario sold 156K. Okay, that's higher. The original Thousand-Year Door sold 137K. So that's also higher. Sticker Star sold more at 130. The original Paper Mario on N64 sold 118. Origami King sold 109,000. So all of those other games have outclassed it, I suppose you could say. But in Japan, the Thousand-Year Door remake is still selling more than Origami King. And that's a big thing. And you have to consider Origami King and Thousand-Year Door, this is just physical. All of those other games, I guess technically Sticker Star was also digital, but people were not, I don't think people were purchasing digital retail games quite as much at that time. Right now, people are buying digital more than ever. So if you consider digital sales, then both Origami King and Thousand-Year Door are probably way above all of these other ones, including Super Paper Mario. So that's great. And then it's beating Origami King. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. I know I'm petty, but I have to be. I have to be. It goes without saying, I want Paper Mario to be like this again. So if it outsells Origami King, then that makes me happy. Once more, this is just one territory. So we have two now. We have UK and Japan. That's nothing to say for the whole rest of the world. Here in the US, very, very big market. We don't know what the numbers are gonna look like when they finally come in, but we're really on track here. These numbers are indicative of a pretty darn good seller here, even compared to Mario's other RPGs, even compared to the recent ones, Origami King and Super Mario RPG Remake. It's doing really, really well. It's not gonna be a massive breakout hit. It's not gonna sell 10 million copies, But as we keep saying, even selling around the number of Origami King, the last original Paper Mario, that's still pretty darn good. And if it ends up selling more, and more than even like Mario RPG, I want Mario RPG to be a success too, but just, I don't know, if Thousand Year Door, the one that everyone's been screaming about, ends up selling better than these other ones, that's a good thing. That is sending a very good message to Nintendo, and at this moment, I am feeling more confident than ever that this game is gonna be a real solid seller. At least as good of a seller as Super Mario RPG and Origami King, at the very least. And that right there, that's great. That is what we're aiming for. It shows that there is a market for this kind of game. It shows that remaking the game was a good idea. This is the kind of thing that people do indeed want to see. That said, I don't want to get too deep into it, but if all these games sell roughly the same, about 3 or 4 million, Mario RPG, Origami King, and Thousand Year Door, does that actually mean that it doesn't really matter what the game is like? Is that actually a bad thing? Would it actually be bad if it sold about the same? Because then it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if it has original characters. It doesn't matter if it's just all generic. It doesn't matter. Any Mario RPG on the Switch is going to sell 3 or 4 million units. Would that be a bad thing? I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that remakes and remasters often do not sell quite as well as like original games. The big, huge, exciting new original games are usually kind of a big deal. So the fact that Mario RPG and Thousand Year Door are selling as well as the latest original big exciting AAA Paper Mario game, does that in itself say something? Is that the message we want to send? Is that fine? Is Nintendo going to look at that and be like, oh my gosh, this was just an old GameCube game and an old Super NES game, but they were just that appealing that they sold as well as our big new one? So maybe that is the message. Maybe, I don't know, whatever. Getting too deep into the weeds here. I can't help it. I can't help it. All that to say, it's very exciting. I cannot wait for more information to come out, but yeah, we probably will have to wait a good bit. I'm not expecting anything. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe we're due for some other kind of... I don't think so. We had the quarterly report. That was recently. The quarterly report is when you get the real major numbers for like every territory. That's when Nintendo themselves say, we sold this much. And we'll have to wait a bit longer for that, unfortunately. Wait, so if the fiscal year ended at the end of March and we got the financial report in May, I guess that means if the next fiscal year ends in June, we gotta wait till August? Gotta wait till August? Come on. I need my numbers. Arlo needs his numbers. Anyway, gotta just focus on the fact things are looking good. Things are looking real, real good. And it feels good, man. Just feels good, man.